Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Axel 72 video, and in today's video I'm going to be giving my prediction for the Josh Padley versus Reece Bellotti fight. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, like the video if you do indeed like the video. And this is a Patreon requested video, so if you're wanting to request any kind of combat sporting related content yourself, you can feel free to go and join the Patreon. You can, like I said, request any kind of combat sporting related content. There's been plenty of videos that have come as a result of it so far, and I really appreciate all the support I've had with it. Again, this is an exciting fight to talk about, and I appreciate, somebody saying that they want to see this as a video. And so yeah, let's get straight into it. I mean, this realistically for both fighters could be quite a defining moment for their careers. Of course, this is a fight which is on the undercard of Dave Allen versus Arsenbek Makhmudov. Both predictions for the main event and the co-main event in Janae Bostan versus Bilal Fawaz. The rematch are also videos which are out now on the channel, predictions for them. So again, this is the last one that I'm going to be doing from this card. But like I say, this could be a very important one for both fighters' careers, because you would probably, have to think, or at least you could make the argument that whoever loses is definitely at risk of being cut from their Matchroom contract. I mean, Matchroom have taken a chance and kind of taken a punt at Josh Padley in the hopes that they get to have some sort of return of investment. I don't think they believe that he's going to be a world beater, or they believe that he's going to be, the next big star. But I think what they're thinking is the fact that he's going to be able to provide some entertaining nights in British boxing. And of course, British boxing as a whole and the events have been getting, quite a lot of criticisms at the moment because of just the lack of quality and the lack of consistency in the events, with, Riyadh season kind of taking over a lot of the big events and big shows. So, Matchroom and these other big promoters need fighters like your Reece Bellottis and like your Josh Padleys to be able to provide a good level of skill and excitement where you kind of can always guarantee that you're going to be entertained with every single one of their fights. And I mean, so far, Reece Bellotti has been that. That was probably one of the reasons as to why Matchroom signed him. Of course, Bellotti has been on a, crazy run in his career, really. The fact that he was basically down and out after losing to Raymond Ford to, then going on a run where he was the away fighter for quite a few fights, but he was, always in 50-50 contests, and he was able to get a good string of wins together. He beat the likes of Akib Fiaz, he beat Levi Giles, he beat Gomez Jr., some real, decent kind of British level names, and he was able to get through them. And again, that was when perhaps on paper, sometimes the odds were stacked against him a bit. And like I say, he was able to gather a good bit of momentum. Then, of course, last time out, he went on to fight Ryan Garner, and he got stopped in that 12th round. And that was a fight in which maybe it wasn't the best of performances from Reece Bellotti. I think Ryan Garner, of course, is a kind of skill level above, and he did showcase that, and he did kind of display that he is, just a British level type of fighter. Reece Bellotti at his best, and obviously, like I've kind of talked about, probably won't be any better than that. But for this fight, he's come into this fight. He's, like I say, probably left it all on the line for this fight. He said that if he loses, he probably most likely will retire. So, especially if it's a bad loss. But I'm sure, at the same time, this probably isn't the first time that he's had these thoughts in his career. So he still perhaps could go on to win and then go on to have a good run again. I don't think he's down and out at all. I don't think he's a shot fighter. He's not one of the fighters where, he's fighting past his time and should have retired a long time ago. This is still a Bellotti who I think is a very skilled fighter and always a very tough fighter to deal with. So, for Josh Padley, this is going to be definitely a test to see if he can handle somebody like a Reece Bellotti. Of course, this isn't the toughest test in Josh Padley's career. Everybody knows, he came up on short notice against Shakur Stevenson, and that was the main reason as to why he got the contract with Matchroom. But for this fight, Josh Padley's moving down in weight, so I think it will be interesting to see if he is able to come with more power, because I do think that there is a good level of power for him, and he does carry, a decent level of power. But I just don't ever think it's really been shown, and his record doesn't suggest that. But when you look at his fights, his last fight, he had a bit of a step down in opposition, but it was a kind of coming out moment to the Matchroom Boxing fans, and he was able to get a stoppage win there. Then when he fought Mark Chamberlain, he was able to drop and hurt Mark Chamberlain with a short, nice shot. And then before that, I think, he got a stoppage win there on a kind of back when he was fighting on the small hall shows. So I think coming down in weight is probably a smart idea for him. I think he definitely could come with a good level of power into this fight. And I mean, if you think about it, he is going to be the bigger guy coming down in weight. I mean, he fought at super lightweight against Chamberlain, so he technically is kind of moving down two whole divisions for this fight. So again, I think it will definitely be an interesting version of Josh Padley that we will see. And like I say, Reece Bellotti, he is a fighter who is very comfortable with being the away fighter, and yet again, he is that, of course, here with Padley fighting near about his kind of hometown of Sheffield, but his hometown's, I think, Doncaster, so it's like round the corner. So again, the fans will be in full voice for Josh Padley. But to speak about both fighters a bit more individually, Padley, I would say, probably is the neater fighter out of the two when he wants to be and when he's allowed to be. He works off his jab pretty nice. He's got, good solid fundamentals. He takes back steps when needed to, find openings, create gaps, and to, just kind of showcase that he can be a bit defensive at times and be a bit smart, not just always coming forwards with a bit reckless pressure. He, I think, probably is faster in general and has got faster hands. He tries to be a bit of an in and out type style. I don't think that's always the most successful for him, but I think he is showcasing that he can be a bit of an in and out type style. And in his last fight, he did showcase that to good effect. He works around the guard well to get body shots in, and I think again, that was shown in good effect in his last fight where he was, able to go down to the body nicely. I think he's got in general a better shot selection than that of Reece Bellotti. I think he's accurate, he isn't reckless in his work, he has heart, and that heart, of course, has been tested and was on display, even though he did get stopped by Shakur Stevenson, coming in on short notice against Shakur Stevenson, one of the elite best fighters in the world, when, you've not even really been training, you've been on site working, that showcases the heart, and to be able to go 9 rounds, I think it was, with him is very, very impressive. He knows how to fight when a fight is not at his pace, so he knows how to deal with adversity. He can fight in close or at a mid-range. He fights quite well coming out of a clinch, and there could be quite a lot of clinching between himself and Bellotti, who, Bellotti wants to get up close and fight with you. He will try and force you back, and he is able to throw well in bunches. Negatives about him, I think he does drop his hands quite a lot when he's throwing, and he often will be throwing from quite low. He doesn't really work angles too well. I think that could be something that he could definitely improve on with his footwork. I think he is just very flat-footed. He's got quite a wide stance, and he does seem quite tense when he's throwing. Again, it doesn't seem as comfortable as what Bellotti seems when he is throwing. He keeps his head on the line. He can be kept at a strong jab, but I don't know if he's going to have to worry about that too much against Reece Bellotti. He can be outpaced. He can be off balance because of how flat-footed he is. He will cover up if he's backed up on the ropes. He can be hurt to the body, and again, Bellotti has shown he is a very good body puncher, and I think that could be something that will be interesting to see. How well he's able to target the body of Padley's. He leans in with his head a bit at times. His general defensive movement, like I say, he'll take that step back, but for the most part, he's not really the best in defensive movement. Like I say, he will just sit on the ropes, and he can, especially early on, be, like I say, a bit tense and jump a bit too far out of range, which means he can't get his counters down, which means he isn't getting his timing down. He's just too far out of range for anything to happen, and he's kind of just out of the void, I suppose, is one way to put it. Reece Bellotti, as a fighter, he's somebody who's got a tight guard and works well, kind of always pounding to the body. Whenever he gets the opportunity, he's always trying to chop away to the body. And against, I think, Gomez Jr. was where he was able to have a lot of success just beating down to the body. He's a high-paced fighter who works in the pocket well and in the clinch well. He's comfortable on the back foot and he's comfortable on the front foot. He's comfortable pretty much always when he's fighting, even though he looks like he's fighting in such chaotic kind of scenarios and situations. He handles physicality well, even though perhaps he's not the strongest of guys himself. He punches all over. He makes you work and fight his fight. Pretty much all the opponents in which he's fought have at some point kind of resorted to going to a war a bit and fighting his fight. Even Garner, throughout the majority of the kind of early to mid rounds, was fighting the fight of Bellotti, and that was allowing Bellotti to have bits of success at times and catch him with a few decent shots. But it was just when Garner was able to get his own work down and actually slow the pace down a bit and be a bit more accurate and precise and pick his shots a bit better was when he was able to have a bit more success and get his power behind shots. Was when Garner was able to have more success. He's always coming forwards when he's allowed that space to do so. Whenever there is a space, he's always going to be trying to walk through that. So if Padley gives him that space, then Bellotti's just going to walk forwards and not, allow that space to be there. He makes his opponent smother. He has heart. I think he does have a very good consistent work rate. He carries, I think, surprising power himself as well. I think his power is good, and like I say, the way that he is just beating you down to the body, and he can roll with his punches well, just a kind of basic fundamental of just kind of slipping and sliding punches. He can do that quite well. I will have a few questions, like I say, he has heart, but will be interesting to see how good his chin is now, especially coming off of that last fight. He didn't get stopped really badly, but I think he could have got stopped really badly. If the ref would have let it go on any further, then it could have ended quite badly. So again, will this be the version of Bellotti where perhaps he is on, the back end of his career? And will this fight showcase that he's on the back end of his career? Of course, we will have to wait and see. Negatives about him, of course, he's a flat-footed fighter for the most part himself. He can be caught leaning heavy on the front foot, whereas Padley can kind of lean in with his head. Bellotti can just kind of be leaning heavy on the front foot in general. He doesn't really kind of leave exchanges, so he doesn't really take any kind of a step back, and so he's always kind of just going to be there to be hit for the most part. He's not that strong. I think he doesn't deal with speed and explosiveness or head movement too well. He needs to be on the inside to be able to get off his work. He doesn't use his jab too well, and he doesn't really create angles himself. He has limited shot variation. Like I say, he'll throw all over, but they're mainly just kind of hooks coming from all over. He's not really mixing in the uppercut. Like I say, he's not really mixing in the jab, and it's not overly creative, his work. And I think in general, he is a bit of more of a one-dimensional type of fighter. He's got minimal movement in his feints. When he's feinting, it's weird. It's like a awkward twitch, but it really doesn't sell fighters at all. I've not seen any fighter kind of bite onto his feints. He leaves his head on the line. He can wait in range. He doesn't really time you when he's on the back foot, and he has started to load up a bit more on the back foot now, which is what I saw in that Garner fight, which is something in which I haven't really seen from him much before. Of course, when he was riding his momentum, he wasn't really being put on the back foot much, but he did start to load up a bit, and that's when he was getting caught with shots when he was just waiting and loading up. And of course, he has been in a lot of wars. Who do I think is going to win this fight? I think that Reece Bellotti is actually going to be able to win this fight via majority decision. Again, I think he's going to walk through Padley's kind of space that Padley allows. Then he's just going to continuously pound away to the body, and I think he's going to push Padley backwards, and I think Padley, isn't going to be able to deal with it. Yes, he might be able to walk Bellotti onto a couple of shots, Padley, but Bellotti keeps his hands high. I think he'll catch them shots, and I don't think they'll come with enough power, as much power as that of what Garner throws with, to really deter him. I think if he's able to get into his rhythm, he's definitely a rhythm fighter, Bellotti, but if he can get into his rhythm, then he'll pound away to the body, he'll have success to the body, and he'll make Padley work. And I don't think Padley's had to work at that same level, where it's just kind of standing toe to toe. Of course he was made to work against Shakur Stevenson, but that was different. He was just getting kind of completely beat down. He won't be getting completely beat down in this fight, but he will still be continuously having to work throughout the entirety of it. When he fought Mark Chamberlain. Chamberlain was keeping his hands low pretty much the whole time, and that's how he was able to time and walk him onto a lot of shots because, the gaps were there, the openings were there. To find the openings on Reece Bellotti for the most part, it's a lot more difficult. And I'm going to give Bellotti the credit to utilise his experience of consistently being in these kind of British 50-50 contests where he's going to be able to be in there and pull out a close decision victory. And that's going to be a kind of a great moment for his career. Again, if this was any other fighter saying that this might be their last fight, then perhaps I would kind of lean towards more the other person because, it's not really a good sign when you're talking about retirement before the fight. But I think because Bellotti has probably been in this position before in his career, I think he's going to be able to pull it out the bag, and I think he is going to have enough left to give to be able to have his own level of success and become WBA International Super Featherweight Champion. And it will be a big moment for his career. Again, another big win to upset the home guy. And then it could really just lead him on to more kind of big British fights, really. I think if he wins this fight, it will just lead on to more big British, moments for himself. And when you look at the super featherweight division, there is a good plethora of talent. Especially around the kind of English-British level scene, and you kind of maybe look at the Barney Smith versus Danny Quartermain fight and go, maybe the winner of that could go on to fight Bellotti. Even Josh Warrington versus Bellotti could be a good fight, to be fair. I know that Matchroom are kind of wanting to rebuild Josh Warrington, so again, that could be a good way to do so. Or Abdullah. That Masood Abdullah could be a good fight. He's coming off his loss to Zach Miller, but that could be, still a good fight against a good name as well if they're going to allow Reece Bellotti to go on to another Queensberry show again. I think Bellotti is going to have to really gather a good amount of momentum to be able to have another kind of home fight in his favour. But for now, I think he's going to be chopping away on these away fights and seeing what he can take and what he'll be able to, if he can gather that kind of next bit of momentum in his career and possible final bit of momentum in his career. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you didn't need like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.